Now, I'm here today to clear up any issue that any of you have. I believe in transparency. I believe in telling the truth. And that's exactly what I intend to do today. But let me start with the OEC report, OCE report, the Office of Congressional Ethics. This is an organization that was charged with responsibilities to make preliminary investigations. In spite of all the things that have been said, in the very conclusions of their report, they state that their report is incomplete and that they can reach no conclusions with regard to whether I did or did not have any ethical violations. And that, of course, is very true. Let me talk about two of the main issues. One is that I may have exceeded the earned income limits. Now, I admit that there was an error in the reporting. That error has been corrected. The error was this: not that the income was not disclosed, because it was repeatedly disclosed on the forms that are required from members of Congress. The question was whether or not it was passive income or earned income. Now, as a result of the corrections, I'm told that I'm entitled to a rather substantial tax refund because I was not required to pay certain withholding taxes on it if it had been in fact earned income. So that's been corrected. There was never any question that the income was not disclosed because it was disclosed. The second part of the report relates to an incident involving the Department of Revenue at the state level and a meeting that I had with the Commissioner. Now, for those of you who are interested in the truth, and I hope all of you are, I think you should pay attention to the fact that the OEC report did not even make reference to what I consider one of the most important facts in this whole matter. They paid no attention whatsoever to the affidavit, for example, of the Chief Inspector for the state of Georgia, who had been in that position for the last 12 years, as to the very issue that I was concerned about, and that was the safety of the driving public in Georgia. In fact, this individual states in his affidavit, which, as I say, was never even alluded to in the report, that he became so frustrated with the fact that he could not find out answers from his own department that he actually retired earlier than he would have liked to do. Now, I think that anyone who looks at this issue should know that we should not have departments in the state of Georgia who are afraid to answer questions. Those who would be in positions of responsibility should be more than willing to share their reasons for making changes in programs to the public, whether they be public or private citizens who are making those inquiries. So I think there was absolutely no reason why I should not have been able to talk and express the concerns of constituents who had expressed their concerns to me. That's exactly what I did. Now, that's the basis of this. But let's go back to who filed the complaint against me. It was a group that is a George Soros-sponsored organization. They are the very same ones who have filed ethics complaints against Sean Hannity and against the organization that supports Colonel Oliver North. These are not individuals who are interested in the truth. They are interested in playing a political game. For the OEC to submit a report and to release it over a week after I had left Congress, I think, first of all, questions whether or not they have in fact violated the rules under which they were established. And that's an issue I think will be left to another day. But secondly, what was their motivation? I think it is very clear that it was political payback. And I think that it's very clear to the public that I'm not going to let my reputation of over 30 years, including my service in the United States Army, to the citizens of this state and this nation, to be dragged through the mud. So I'm here today to answer your questions.
Congressman, you're saying that the OCE releasing the report was political payback. They're a nonpartisan group. What would their political motivation be in trying to go after you?
The staff is not a nonpartisan group. The staff is controlled by Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And the individuals who serve on that board only know what the staff told them. The excerpts that you see are not transcripts of testimony that any witness gave to those individuals on the staff, not even my testimony. It was their notes, as they say, was a summary of the interviews. I was not even given an opportunity to see those other interviews or to have the opportunity to respond to them. It was an atmosphere that was controlled by the staff. I don't discredit those individuals who serve on that committee, but I think that it is staff-driven. It has been, and I think always will be until substantial changes are made in that organization.
What role did your chief of staff have in this, and why did some of these emails come from your chief of staff as a member of Congress?
Well, because he schedules meetings for me. That's exactly the way that I schedule all meetings. There are a number of emails with the Department of Revenue scheduling and inquiring about other issues that relate to constituent matters. I think the safety of the driving public in our state, when I have a knowledge about an issue, it is my responsibility, both as an individual and as an elected official, to try to pass that information on. And that is the connection, that is the contact way that we do in our office, and I think that's totally appropriate.
Congressman, the Revenue Commission doesn't, as I understand it, doesn't guarantee the safety of these cars. They're checking to see if they have headlights and if the engine turns over, right? I mean, is that an actual safety inspection, or is it just to show that the salvage work has been done? I mean, is that, am I misunderstanding that?
I think you're understanding the present privatized program, but I would call your attention to the affidavit from the chief inspector who was in charge of the program for the last 12 years prior to the time it was abolished. Let me read you the last few statements that he makes. He said, "When I had the January 2009 meeting with Commissioner Graham, I expressed concern that a private inspection system would not adequately address the two purposes of the inspection program, namely that stolen parts were not being used to rebuild the vehicles, and more importantly, that the rebuilding be done in a manner that ensures the safety of the rebuilt vehicle. I was advised by Commissioner Graham that the Department of Revenue was not in the business of enforcing safety standards or in dealing with stolen vehicles. I was very concerned since the inspectors who work for me were trained to look for both matters." Now, I think that is the key to this distinction. We now have a system in place where individuals who are inspectors are not making any safety inspections. And I would invite any of you who want to see what those look like, look at what a rebuildable vehicle looks like and tell me whether or not you believe that before they're put back on the road and titled and tagged, whether or not somebody ought to have some ability to look at the safety and drivability of those vehicles. I invite you to explore that issue. If you want a subject to explore, that is a very fertile field in which you can make examinations.
The OCE report states that you were not able to meet with them on January 28th, and you issued a statement instead. What were you doing on January 28th that kept you from meeting with the committee?
My attorney was not available at that time, and he had suggested that in order for me to appear before them and make a statement that he needed to be present, he had made the request for a continuance at a time that was mutually convenient, and that request was denied. And as a result, I submitted a written statement and I submitted other documents, none of which are referred to in the OCE report.
Sir, as you look back, would you change anything about your conduct in this matter?
If I look back on it, well, obviously anybody would like to avoid the political flack that comes from anything, but I didn't do anything wrong. I did absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, if it was a matter of enhancing my own personal revenue, I would have been better off to be a part of this private inspection program, where there are no caps on how many vehicles you can inspect. There are no limits on the number of days that you can inspect vehicles, and absolutely no supervision from the state as to the quality of the work that you're doing. My partner and I chose not to do that. As you know, we made statements early on that we felt that was morally irresponsible. We didn't want to have a part in that. And so I stand by the fact that I did what I thought was right at the time. I simply asked questions of what are you going to replace this program with?